So let's dive in and show you a quick product demo, what's actually happening under the hood here in SOC world. So the first screen here, this represents the challenge that analysts face day to day, which is here's a screen full of threat logs. Okay, and this represents, so we got here, for an example, we've got 10,000 threat logs. This is an actual example taken from one of our customers, anomalized. And you get FortiGate, these are IPS alerts. And, so if you're an analyst, this shouldn't be uncommon to you. But the challenge is not just how to triage these alerts on this screen. It's how do these alerts relate through time? How do these alerts relate through my across all my other security stacks? So I've got 10,000 IPS. Are these related to my endpoint security tool alerts, for instance? So it's a daunting challenge for analysts to take this information, to triage this effectively, and also to consolidate and correlate and spot patterns through time. Really hard for a human to do, really challenging. And so hence why these guys turn to SOC for help. And so let's talk to you about how SOC would deal with this challenge. So as these 10,000 alerts are coming in, basically in real time, SOC is constantly passing the alerts as they come in, enriching them. And it's also grouping them through time as and when they're coming in, and then it's prioritizing them for the analysts. So let's have a look. Let's go through that process. So let's say 10th of November 2020, these 10,000 alerts have come in, and SOC has gone, I found 20 that I think are related to the same case, a unique cyber case. And so these 20 here, SOC has gone, well, yeah, they're related. And how it's doing that, and the thesis behind the tool is all of these alerts are mapped to the MITRE ATT&CK. And so all of these share the same threat type. So this is a technique, exploitation for client execution. And they're all coming from the same external. Very important that you're not just correlating just on threats, right? So we're going threats, we're tracking entities, and we're saying, yeah, they're related. You should be looking at these in the same breath. And so these 20 alerts, 5:40 in the morning, it started, 5:48 in the morning to 6:40, 6:38 in the morning. And so you log on for your morning coffee, and SOC has already done this grunt work for you and said, hey, analyst, I've found 20 that are related. And so it does that job, so that's a great, a big time saver as it is. But then it goes one step further and now adds more context to it. So once it's grouped it based on threat type and external entities, it could do internal, but in this case, it's an example for external. It then enriches it. So it goes, great. You've also told me, you as the customer has said, I really care about these type of alerts, right? The Joomla core session remote code execution. That's an alert I should be worried about. So you've labeled them as critical alerts in SOC OS tags that. But also, SOC looks at the metadata within each one of these alerts, and it realizes that the firewall's done its job, it's blocked it. So it adds the meta tag of, yes, it's been blocked. Now, that's important because the critical alert would have affected the score, impacted the score higher for you, but then the blocked metadata would have reduced the score as well. And so you log on for your coffee, you get into SOC and you get the workbench here. So 20 alerts, that's what we just showed you. ECE, exploitation for client execution, they've just come in 1 minute. IP, there's one internal entity here, and it's all come from one source system, one security tool. You click on it and you go, great, I've got a nice visualization. And that is a visualization representation of the table, which I've just showed you. So you have a look and you go, okay, exploitation for client execution is here. The external entity, we put up the top here. The internal entity, we put here. The context, the business critical context here, so FortiGate critical alert, you know that these 20 alerts are from FortiGate, happened all in week 1 with a bit of frequency, so timeline of when they've appeared, and you know that all 20 are from FortiGate. They're critical type of alerts. Some of them are critical, and they're all this type of threat. You can dive in a little bit further and click on the external entity and go, well, what's actually happening here? And you get threat intelligence into the tool built in, right? So this is happening automatically. Abused IPDB scores you see here, 100, and you get Alien Vault OTX feeds as well. Firewall's doing its job. You can archive it. You can say, I'm happy with this. Thanks, firewall. Crack on. Move on to the next set of clusters that I want to investigate for the day. So that's a time saving in its own right. But where it really comes to life, this concept of stateful correlation, which is really the USP of the tool, is as follows. Let's fast forward the clock to the 7th of December. And here you have another 10,000 alerts. And basically rinse and repeat everything I've set up until this time. SOC is parsing, analyzing, correlating through time, enriching, and prioritizing. But what it's doing now is really is crucial, is really important. It finds 21 alerts on the 7th of December that it groups, and it says, oh, I've seen, yep, all these 21, all the same threat type. Yep, it's all the same external. But it not only groups the 21 on the 7th of December, it says, hey, I've seen that before. That looks familiar to the 4 weeks ago, that bunch that we've already correlated together. And so it actually correlates this group of 21 and combines it, tags it on to the last 20 that we saw just previously. it adds the business context again. This time it gets more interesting because now you've got IP addresses, different IP addresses from the first 20. Sensitive web servers, again, the critical alerts. And this time your firewall's saying, I haven't blocked it, right? So I've detected this traffic, I've let it through, haven't stopped, haven't actioned it, which is crucial, right? And that's in fact very important for our scoring algorithm because that will boost this entire cluster much higher to the top of your cluster list. And here you click on the tool, you get in and you say, great, 4 weeks later, 7th of December, and you go, okay, great, 41 alerts now in this one cluster. 21 have been unactioned. The red 21 means not blocked. You click on it and you get this picture. You would have seen just now week 1, 3 weeks of nothing. Now week 5, you have 21 new alerts that SOCOS is saying you should be considering these 41 together. And you can click on these 21 alerts. You get all the original alert data. You can go to the data view to really dive into the threat logs themselves to if you want a bit more of a granular threat log view. But I wrap up and I'll pause here and I'll say, imagine you're an analyst and on week 5, you've picked up 1 alert. So you've looked at the Drupal core, 1 alert. And within that metadata, you've looked at it, you've triaged that alert. And in that metadata contains this external IP and this internal IP address. You would react according to that keyhole view of the world. Whereas now with SOCOS, our analysts are able to go, interesting, ask really interesting questions. They go, okay, week 1, that was all blocked. I've got the notes in my activity timeline. It tells me that my team member archived this. Firewall doing its job. But then there's nothing happening in 3 weeks. That's interesting. And then in week 5, we've got another 21. This is hitting a web server, critical web server, as you see here. So now your response is, well, I'm going to definitely go check the logs on these 3 machines. I'm definitely going to make sure this is block listed on the file, on the perimeter. And I'm also going to ask questions, okay, what the hell happened in these 3 weeks? Is it genuine that nothing's happened? Did our tools miss it? I'm going to go look at the logs and go do some searching. So your investigation becomes a lot more effective and well-rounded because of this time-based view of the world. Hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions? Please feel free to ask.